It's the SDG Podcast. Before we get started, you can check us out on the web at solutiondesign.com/podcast or find us on all the social medias, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Solution Design Group.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the SDG Podcast. We're joined today by Mr. Chad Jutner.
Hello.
And John Brindel.
Hello.
And I'm Peter Lawrence, and Kyle Bacher has decided to take some time for himself. Rare, but it happens. So I just thought I'd throw it out there. Allison, too. She's unavailable. So in the spirit of fun and everybody's gone who really controls the reins, we're going to talk about sports. Let's see, sports and all things statistics, right? Or all things sports statistics.
Sports and math, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Chad, this has been sort of a fun talking conversation for you for a long time, as I recall. I think we've had this chat a little bit offline.
Yeah, so usually we do something about the baseball season because I'm a huge baseball guy. The start of the season means a lot to me. So usually it's been like just general, we get excited about baseball season. We throw out a relatively non-technical episode about baseball. But this year, we didn't get to that before the season started. So here we are now. And the idea came to me that we should talk. We've got mathematicians on staff now, right? And so it'd be fun to have me as a baseball nerd, John as a mathematician, and like the convergence of how important statistics are to sports and
gambling.
Yeah, maybe gambling, but also like I just rolled off of a large project that did there was a lot of math involved. So I'm getting excited in my old age about math again. So timing is just perfect for it.
That's fun. I think baseball brings out the math nerd in most of us. I don't know.
Yeah.
John, were you a baseball math nerd or a sports statistics math nerd before a math nerd, or just you're going the other way?
Yeah, sports ball fandom has just never been a thing for me. I've tried to get into several sports. It's not my thing. I actually hated math growing up. It's really true what they say. You need to have a good teacher. And early on, my math teachers were not the best. And so eventually, though, I got one teacher, and they really made it make sense for me in a way. And then I was like, oh man, I love this.
Nice.
And so I went and did econometrics as my major in college. So yeah.
Econometrics.
Yes.
That sounds like a fake word. What does econometrics mean?
It's applying statistical techniques and procedures to measure and forecast what's going on in the economy, essentially. So I went to econ school. My focus became econometrics. So
very cool.
But in terms of sports statistics, I must warn you, I know almost nothing. I probably will not even know the rules of the game that you're talking about, but we can try.
That's okay. We can still talk about statistics.
Yeah. Have you been to a baseball game before?
When I was 9, I think I went to a baseball game.
Oh, yeah. This is going to be fun. All right.
This is perfect.
I had a phase where I was into baseball back in childhood, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah. So for me, baseball and probability, and I'm getting more and more into building out baseball nerds since the late 70s. It's always been a statistical game, right? You get a baseball card, and on the back of the baseball card, I've got one right here. It's just I can't read this anymore because I'm old, but I'm holding it's all stats, right? Here's how many, here's his batting average, here's his slugging percentage, here's his how many home runs, all this other stuff that we put together, and use all of these statistics to evaluate how good is this guy, right?
Right.
Is he, like Brooks Lee on the Twins, who is getting there, but not quite there yet. Does he have the potential to get there? Like, how do you measure a player's potential? How do you measure their importance to different moments in the game? Like, baseball nerds get really excited about just putting together these new statistics. So the most simple statistic in baseball is just your batting average, right? I'm at bat 5 times, I get 1 hit. My batting average is .200, right? And it is for the longest time, like that was like one of the key metrics that we use to evaluate guys, and it's kind of fallen out of favor.
Yeah.
Like this guy hits, 300 is a great player, 350 is like Hall of Fame type player. 400 has only been hit once in a season, I think, or twice. I think it's once in modern baseball. And so like we used to just value that so much, right? Like you can't score runs if you don't get people on the base paths. And then this became, then the Moneyball thing happened, and then everybody just went absolutely nuts about statistics and bringing in statisticians and mathematicians. And I think the Moneyball, I think that dude, the guy that Jonah Hill played, I think he was like an economist, like John, maybe a little bit. And just applying like a lot of that thinking to, player value, and that's the mythology of the 2001 Oakland Athletics that the movie's kind of about. Under the covers, there's like a lot more going on, and it was like kind of lightning in a bottle, but that movie is amazing. So, as recreationally, this is me being like a really unexciting, right? Like I love putting together, like trying to figure out like what's the new statistic, like what is the new, like there's a statistic called WAR, wins above replacement, right? So
if I saw that one. What the heck?
If your WAR is 0, that means like you're average, like you're not any better or worse, right? A lot of the Twins players started the season poorly. And so on a year by year, on a game by game basis, the WAR number for them was like negative something, which some people will look at and be like, well, I'm a dude that sits behind a laptop. My WAR right now on the Minnesota Twins is 0, which means I'm better than Byron Buxton. I mean, not really. And this is where like actually applying these statistics to real life scenarios matters. And this is where or I'm excited to talk to John, right? Like just because you're 0-4, batting, that next at bat doesn't mean anything, right? Like you're not gonna,
no. It sounds like what we're talking about here is how would I say it? I mean, it's really just a lack of data, right? Like you're talking about the person who says their like wins above replacement is 0. Well, that's because you've never played a game, right? You've never played professionally, and like it's a weird counterfactual to be like, yeah, I calculated this statistic for myself, but if your N of, I guess, wins or whatever is 0, then it's going to be 0, right? So yeah, it's a statistical fallacy to say something like that.
But again, I think what a lot of people don't understand with statistics and have a hard time with, like, you see these streaks in baseball and you're just like, well, if their batting average is 300, they should hit 3 times out of every 10, and they haven't hit the last 7 times, so they should be hitting the next 3 times. Come on. It's in the number.
Batting average, based on what you've told me about it, and again, I only just learned how a batting average is calculated. Based on what you're telling me, like there's also like a couple of variables that are not accounted for in that batting average at all. Like who's the pitcher? Like how good are they? There's also like factors to do with the player himself or herself, I guess. Like it's
they might have a cold that day.
Might have a cold, might have a recent injury. There's an endless number of things that can affect the actual individual like chance on that day, and this is more where we would use like Bayesian statistics to try and calculate the probability. So Bayesian statistics, essentially, you could take that batting average as your prior, is what you call it, like your existing belief about how good this person is, and then you could tack on to that other things that you know about the situation. So
Hmm.
you know, for instance, that the pitcher they're playing against is like a brand new rookie. Maybe they have an arm injury in the past recently. So in this case, maybe you do expect the person to bat above 300 or you know, whatever uh, the the cutoff there is. And that's kind of the idea of Bayesian statistics is like you have a kind of ground truth that you form as your prior, and then you bring in other information and adjust that prior based on the other information you have available. You know, so in this case, maybe you want to look at statistics about the pitcher. You could form a model that incorporates the statistics about that pitcher into the probability model that you're building, uh, and combines that with, say, the batting average. And those are just like available statistics. Some of these things, like I said, are going to be difficult to measure. You know, did the person sleep well last night? We're probably not going to know that. But um, yeah, you
Yep.
just need to like look at the whole situation, right?
Yeah, that's a great point, and I think that's in baseball at least. And so I'm going to focus mostly on baseball because these are the statistics that I know most. A lot of the modern statistics try to do exactly like what John's talking about, right? Like when we evaluate batters, there's some super obvious metrics that we can use, and then when we evaluate pitchers, there's a whole different set um, of statistics, and one of the oldest one, like the pitching version of batting average, used to be like earned run average, right? ERA is like number of runs in a game or number of runs that pitcher gave up divided by 9. Like so a really good pitcher, an ERA of 1, like giving up 1 run a game, not bad. 2, not bad. Starts to get a little iffy around 3 and 4, and then 5, 6, 7 was always horrible, right?
Mhm.
But again, that's like John's saying, that is a horrible stat to measure a pitcher's success because it takes out like fielding errors, right? Like if a guy gets on base because of an error, um, I think traditionally an error doesn't necessarily count against a pitcher's ERA, but like other things
Right.
do, right? Like just mediocre fielding,
Yeah.
probably gives up 1 or 2 more runs a game than even if they're all like, even if it's all flowing correctly, right? Like if we're not dropping the ball, if we're not letting the ball hit us in the head and bounce into the outfield for a home run. That happened twice now. It happened to Jose Canseco. It's amazing. Look up the video if you ever
Yeah.
want to see it. It's dude hit a ball in the outfield. He couldn't see it. Sun was his eyes. Literally bounced off his forehead and then off his forehead into I think it was right field for a home run for the guy batting. And then it just happened this spring to some dude in college. Anyway, that pitcher gave up a home run, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But did he?
Well, and I
You
would
know?
say even ERA is not a great measure to bring in if you're trying to like determine the chance of a person hitting the ball because you're measuring different things, runs versus hits, right?
Right,
Um,
exactly. Yeah. And it's a horrible statistic for pitchers. I mean, it sucks that it gets tagged to their like it's one of
yeah.
the first 5 things you see about a pitcher. Um, but where we are today with baseball, we measure everything. Like we measure how fast did the ball leave the bat, right? Like
Right.
Yeah.
and for better or worse. For example, the Twins, Trevor Larnach, he's been on the Twins now for a bit. Um, Everybody got excited about Trevor Larnach because he's like one of the top 10 players in major leagues as far as like
Exit velocity.
exit velocity. Yeah, like the ball leaves his bat like fast, right? So he's got a great swing. Unfortunately, his great swing the ball ends up in somebody's glove almost, you know, to a ridiculous amount. So
But it
like,
gets there really fast.
I know. So yeah,
Yeah.
super fast.
Goes
So
right to
like,
the third baseman super fast.
yeah, I think it's like, I mean, it's dinner time for statisticians in baseball because we have so much data, right? Like there's so
Mhm.
much that data mining we can do. And now with this, we call it the StatCast era, where
Yeah.
we know how many rotations the ball spins
Yes.
from the pitcher's hand to the catcher's glove or to the bat, right? And they were talking about like spin rates as one of the next big stats that's going to indicate, whether or not a pitcher is amazing or not, right?
Mhm.
And to a degree, I think it's true, but like also, I don't know, right? Like
Yeah.
I mean, the spin
This,
rate should indicate how much that ball is moving up from the pitcher's release point to where it gets caught, right? But not necessarily, because a knuckleball probably has a spin rate of 0 to 1
Mhm.
and super
Yeah.
hard to hit, right?
What is a knuckleball? Could somebody explain
So
that to me?
yeah, so basically the idea behind a knuckleball is you're basically shoving the ball into the glove instead of like whipping it and kind of putting some
Okay.
spin on it. And kind of when you watch some of the old knuckleball throwers, like the ball just does weird things when they do that, right?
Hmm.
It just kind of travels different, and it's harder for the batters to really adjust to like, because you could, a good pitcher, throws, 95-mile-an-hour fastballs, great pitchers throw over 100. And knuckleball is like a 60-mile-an-hour pitch, right?
Yeah.
So theoretically, it should be easier for a batter to take a crack at that and, do some damage with it. In practice, though, like it didn't work out so well because it would just like almost cartoonishly,
Hmm.
like travel. Um, that's happening again with some of the folks. Like you see pictures and you see some of the overlays. Like the modern technology makes it so that you can watch the same picture and then the overlay one pitch and the other, and then they see it from the batter's point of view, and a batter has like a split second to decide what to do with a pitch. And so on TV, you see a batter take a swing at a ball that's like in the dirt, right?
Hmm.
But what he saw when it left the pitcher's glove is the exact same ball from a previous pitch coming at him, where it left at this point, and he's like, "All right, I'm taking a swing at this. I'm going to see what happens." Last one was right into the strike zone. This one is gonna I'm assuming it's the same thing, but it doesn't work out that way. Like really good pitchers just make the ball travel in that like 90 feet, like so weird, and it's so cool to watch. Like I'm almost a bigger fan of pitching now than I am of hitting, right? Like I like
Hmm.
seeing pitchers just go excel at what they're doing.
So good pitcher's duel is what you're looking for in your attendance,
Okay,
at least
so
one or two.
I like a good pitcher's duel when I'm watching from home. I like dingers when I'm at the park.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Makes sense.
and they also make a knuckleball catcher's glove that is bigger and more padded, right? Because it's so much harder to catch because not only does it fool the
Yeah.
batter, it fools the catcher into where it's going to be, and so they need a bigger glove to actually catch the ball and
Pick
not
it
have
up.
it
Yeah.
swing past them. So
Got it.
To John's point earlier, though, there was a guy in the 90s and early 2000s. His name was Tom Glavine. He pitched for the Braves mostly. There are so many stories about him, and he didn't throw insanely fast, right? But I mean, he's a Hall of Fame pitcher. But he would do things like towards the end of the season, he would recognize situations like, okay, we're going to face this team in the playoffs. There's a great story about how he was pitching to this dude, and it was like early September or something, right? And he
Hmm.
they
just
were
they
ahead
were,
5-0.
yeah, or no, actually, I think they were behind.
Were they behind in a big
Yeah,
chunk?
and so he was out there pitching, and his catcher tells his story, and he says he goes, "Yeah, Tom threw me this thing." And he just threw, like in this situation, threw this ball down the middle of the plate, and the dude just cranked it, cranked it for a home run. And the catcher was like asking him, like, "What are you doing?" And then Tom just kind of like walked off. He's like, "Never mind, it's fine, right? They're already losing the game. He just gave up this meatball to this dude." Well,
Hmm.
they meet these guys in the playoffs, right? And Tom uh, throws to this guy, and he does almost the exact same thing, but he throws him a curve instead of a fastball in the same exact situation. The dude just takes a big, huge cut at it and misses. And then as they're walking off, the catcher tells the story. He's like, Tom comes over and he goes, "Hey, same guy, same situation. That's why I gave up the home run last month, is because that dude was looking for that ball and not, this curve that just sank."
Yeah.
They used to call the dude the professor because he would do stuff like this all the time, where he'd just like in his head just come up with these crazy situations and actually deliver on different like pitch location speeds. It was cool to watch. I love
Yeah.
talent.
And I would bet that something like that would be very difficult to pick up in the statistics, right? Like there's
Exactly. Yeah.
almost nothing about the professor that would make you think like there's, if you just look at his stats, that he's going to play any differently. But yeah, I mean that brings into the picture also like the I guess batters' expectations about what is going to be coming down the plate, and that's going to affect their decision. It's going to affect their batting average in the end, right? Like there's so many factors at play. It sounds like we're bringing a lot more statistics in, but sometimes also like if you bring too much in, it's
Hmm.
you can start finding these spurious correlations and things. So that's what I would be a little bit concerned about. If you have, so many new sources of data coming in, you could start to see relationships where maybe there actually isn't one.
Yeah.
Has that
Yeah.
happened at all?
I think so. I think, I mean, yes. I know there is for a while, the Moneyball thing became a huge thing. And teams were hiring like John Brindles, like they were hiring players, right? Like they were bringing on guys that could think differently about player development, and staffing their analytics department almost as well as they're staffing their roster, right? Um, and I think that, I mean, I can't think of a specific example, but I think that rubber band stretched pretty far,
Yeah.
in like the, you know, late 2010s. And I think it's coming back now a little bit to like, all right, like good players are good players, bad players are bad players. And sometimes it's just like flukes happen.
Yeah.
Like right now, the Twins have this kid, his name's Luke Keeschall. And he was never like a number one, like top prospect or anything. Like he was in our minor league system for a little bit, and I think we got him from one of the trades, but like nobody was like saw Luke Keeschall come on the roster and be like, oh hell yeah, this is going to be amazing, right?
Yeah.
But he gets to the majors, and all of a sudden, I mean, he just explodes, right? Like he's not an all-star, but he's pretty darn good. He's a starter. If he's
Mhm.
healthy, he's going to be playing, right? Um, as opposed to like Walker Jenkins, right? Like he's not a bad player, but like we're letting him sit in the minors, and he was our number one overall pick a few years ago. We're letting him like slowly progress from, double A to triple A, and I'm sure he'll make his debut at some point this year.
There's a plan for him, and people have expectations and want to go at
Exactly.
the right speed.
Yeah. Yeah. So like we're all expecting Walker Jenkins to come to the majors and just be amazing, right? Nobody expected that from Luke Keeschall, and it could just be the opposite, right? Walker could get up here, and be, if he's average, we're gonna be bummed out. Like everybody's thinking like this is the next Buxton, this is the next Kirby Puckett, this is the next Joe Mauer. Like that's the
Right.
expectations put on Walker. And maybe, I mean, to John's point, maybe that's going to be a reason that he's not going to succeed, right? Like too much pressure. I'm sure there's a whole mental aspect to this.
I mean,
Yeah.
you look at the Vikings quarterback situation, there was a bit of pressure put on a young JJ McCarthy, right? That he had pretty good expectations on his
Yeah. Yeah.
going.
I'm so bummed about JJ, man. I mean, the dude's a champion, right? Like he's always just won. And then he came
Right.
here,
Yeah.
got hurt, and then yeah, he's struggling.
Yep.
But I
But
think that's also something that kind of makes sports remain like interesting and relevant to a certain degree. Because, you get all of these statistics in, and like if you really did have a system that could be fairly well predicted, like it stops being a game. It's really just kind of a system that you're optimizing for. And, there's not, I don't know, it feels like that's how you would like really destroy a sport is by like, uh, I don't know, quantifying everything and figuring out all the relationships perfectly, right?
and having it work, right? Like that. I
Yeah,
think that's
having it
the
work.
yeah, that's the part that keeps, I think, stopping it from it is like people keep trying for that.
Yeah.
But then they also bang on a garbage can every once in a while to tell the batter to take a swing. So
Yeah.
there's just really weird things going on in sports that I think back to like you were talking about the Twins and some of their younger prospects, but like Tom Brady didn't join the Patriots as a number one draft, and I think he was sixth round or something like that, and he wasn't a starter for quite a while, and then became a legend or GOAT or whatever you want to call it. I think he had some help from some outstanding players on the team. He wasn't the only guy standing out there, but yeah, it's tough to get that, to know which are the statistics that count and how much they count, right? Like and you have that same problem at a company, right? Where they're like, oh no, when we produce this product and we get it to the truck in 47 minutes, that's the best we can do, and it's amazing, or something like that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The I like the Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, I think was the same way. Like they were late round picks. I think evaluating young talent, if anybody could crack that code, it would be, I mean, if you could somehow figure out that formula, you'd be killing it. I think another point that John made is statistics have kind of affected the rules of baseball to a degree. Like we used to have this, we've got data on every single hit and where it landed in the field going back forever, right? They used to shift. So John, baseball, right? You got a first baseman, third baseman, shortstop, and second baseman, and they just kind of like they can be, there's no real rules there didn't used to be rules to where they had to stand, right?
Yeah.
You just kind of had this standard, like, let's cover as much area as we can. Well, when we started looking at, and this wasn't like a new thing, but it became kind of a problem. You'd see a guy that only ever hit balls to the right, and so they would start just stuffing the right side of the infield, right? Like your second baseman would be like right next to the first baseman, and your shortstop would be on the right side of second base, and your third baseman would be, kind of standing on second base. And you'd be like, all right, this guy's always going to hit over here. We're going to put as many players on that side of the field as we can, right? Like 95% of his balls go this way. And it kind of turned into a bummer to watch, right? Because like, I think batting averages,
because they were right.
Because they were right. Yeah. Averages went down. It was just kind of like weird, for a little bit, where it's like, that's not kind of the spirit of the game. So based on that statistic and ball placement and everything else, they did ban the shift. So now there are codified rules to like, all right, your shortstop has to be, on the dirt. He's got to be this, at least a little bit to the left of second base. And your second baseman has to kind of do the same. You can't just put all the players, like all the fielders in one spot anymore. And I wonder, as we get better and better at this, I think that was one of the most obvious rule changes because of statistics. But other sports, there could be other changes like that. I could see that happening at some point.
Yeah.
Football is a great example, right? Like injuries happen on kickoffs, so they changed the rules of kickoffs, right? Because they don't want, two 300-pound dudes running full speed at each other, meeting at half, whatever, the 30-yard line.
The laws of momentum.
Yeah, exactly. And then giving each other brain damage. Super good rule. Yeah.
Well, and I feel like this is also kind of connected to the rise of like sports betting that we're seeing. Like that's really enabled, I think, by the like large amounts of statistics we get. And I'm interested to hear from sports fans, like how do you think that that's affecting the quality of the game? And I don't know, like I have my opinions on it, but
yeah, I'm on the fence, right? Because I'm not a big I don't gamble a ton. If I do, it's like I'll throw, well, I don't gamble a ton. I do a Friday meat raffle, and that's gambling to me. Like,
technically, yes.
$2 in, and maybe I'll win $20 worth of meat. But once every 5 weeks I'll win, and I'll spend $80 to win $20. It's just stupid and fun.
Yeah. But also a social side to that too.
There's a social side, but the same thing with gambling at like baseball games. So some stadiums now have a gambling book in the stadium.
Stadiums have it in the stadium?
Yeah, I was in Cleveland a while ago, and they have you can bet on the game right there, right? And it's not like glamorous like Vegas. At least Cleveland wasn't. As if anything in Cleveland is glamorous. Sorry, Cleveland fans. But you can go right to this kiosk and say, I was there for a Twins game. All right, I'm going to bet $5 the Twins win. And it gives you some, there's some weird odds to that. Well,
there's payoff odds, right? Like,
yeah,
that's how it's supposed to work.
Mm-hmm. It did make, the game was slightly more fun. I was still pretty happy to be watching a baseball game, but then I'm like, oh, if I win, and I put like literally $5 on it or something. Like, oh, I'll get $7 back if the Twins win.
There you go.
Little fun, but like, I can totally see how damaging that would be at, I have self-control. Kind of.
Regards to gambling on the Twins.
Exactly. In regards to gambling, I have self-control. But I can see how damaging that would be in other, for people that aren't, like me. I'm not a huge fan of like these video boards in bars. I see people just put so much money into those things. Right. And it looks like a video game and it's incentivized to like trigger whatever. I don't love that.
Yeah.
I'm all for the gambling at the stadiums. Put a limit on it, right? Like don't let some dude put, 20 grand on an outcome. I don't. But it makes it a little, I had a little top spin to an already great day. That was neat.
Sure.
Maybe income-based gambling, so you can only bet as much based on your income or some other relativistic thing. So
yeah, that'd be good.
I think
they do that with speeding tickets. Sorry, John, what was that?
I was saying I think they should certainly increase the minimum age for it. These apps, like that's the part that scares me, is like just how easy it's gotten. Like, you have apps now. It's one thing if you like have to actually go to the stadium and like go to the desk and like pay up there. You're already invested in the game to a certain extent. You've paid money to be there. But when it's just as easy as like click, tap, like on my phone, I don't know. It makes me uneasy, I will say.
Yeah.
I have not installed Kalshi or anything of that nature because I might get involved in it a little bit more than I expect.
I put Kalshi on my phone and it was on there for like a couple of weeks. It was more of I was just like interested in what the heck it was, right? Like I couldn't believe it. I'm like, gambling on sports is illegal in Minnesota, but here I am on this app, and if you pull up like DraftKings or whatever, like you can't use the gambling aspect if your phone is in Minnesota. Right. Kalshi, you can't, because they're not calling it gambling. They're calling it, you're betting on futures and commodity. Where it's the same rules that apply to commodity traders apply to Kalshi.
Outcome-based something or other.
It's insane, but all right.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
But and it's funny because you do see all these statistics and you do see all these game numbers and everything like that. And week in and week out, especially, as a former fantasy baseball player and a NFL loser pool at SDG, which we do and try to predict the loser of that week's outcome and keep going through all 18 weeks. How many? I don't even know how long the NFL season is anymore. It's a long season.
I couldn't tell you.
But even doing that and going to 3 different places that have predictive outcomes based on experts and statistics and everything, there's still disagreement on, the over under and who's going to win by this score and all of that. And how many people are absolutely wrong? The ESPN crew all say, yep, the Vikings got it this week. And then turns out they didn't have it this week or something like that, right?
Yep.
So.
Go ahead, John.
No, I was just going to say, each of these places is essentially just building their own kind of proprietary model, and they're probably looking at different aspects of the statistics, cutting different ways, and who's doing it right? I don't know. Um,
The people
Yeah.
running the boards, because they make the money off of both the winners and the losers, right?
that's true. Yes.
I think different approaches to like games also like just dramatically, not so much in baseball because we have such a large sample size, but once one of the most interesting statistics, sorry, um,
Easily
is
said.
yeah, thank you. So Wilt Chamberlain, NBA basketball player, big in the 60s, 70s, like Wilt still was like the god, right?
Yeah.
He's got a lot of he put up a lot of big numbers, like a lot.
100 points in a
He
game.
100-point game, but that's not the most interesting statistic about Wilt is that he once averaged 48 and a half minutes per game and
Wow.
on playing time. Now the game is only 48 minutes long,
Yeah. Wait a
right?
minute.
And so it was he got that stat because they went into overtime so much back when he was
Oh,
playing. Like basketball itself, there was so many
Mhm.
overtime games that and this is before the shot clock, I think, and a lot
yeah.
of other things.
Right.
Before the 3-point shot even, right? So like a lot of basketball games just naturally like gravitated to like close games were almost always going to end in a, so like Wilt averaged 48 and a half minutes in a game for a game that's only 48 minutes long. That is amazing to me. Like
Yeah.
a lot of our current like NBA stars, like they all, nobody's average is even close to the entire game anymore, right? Like
No.
it's,
No.
75, I don't even know. I'm not sure what a good playing time average is
Well, and
for
they're being sat on purpose, right? To keep them healthy and have them go for the whole season rather than just focus on, you know, that
Immediate
game or
wins.
whatever.
yeah. Yeah. Um, there's I don't know, John, what's the concept? Like past success isn't always a good indicator of like future outcomes, right?
Yeah.
Probability. Um, in '01, Seattle, their Seattle Mariners team tied a major league record, I think, for like number of games won in a season. They got like 115 wins or 160, 117, I forget what it was. But they didn't win the World Series. The World Series was won by a team that was barely over 500. So on one hand, you got a team that, set the record for being a successful season and then did not win the championship.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so that same thing, but that was the Twins too. Our World Series wins came after like horrible seasons, right? Like our 1990 Minnesota Twins team sucked. We barely made the playoffs in 91, and then we win the World Series, right?
Yep.
Uh,
If I were building a model, I would like include what we call a dummy variable in there for is Minnesota. So like pretty much if it's going to predict win, like it's got to predict lose at the end because that's just our
yeah,
pattern, unfortunately. Like even
I,
if everything looks good, no,
I
is
think,
Minnesota flag true?
yeah, exactly. I think that's beautiful. I mean, our what 98, 99 Vikings, like record
Yeah.
average score, like all the records in the world, and then it would get knocked out in like this first round or the second round. I forget what it was. It was just horrible. Um,
Yeah.
the
Vikings make it to the playoffs pretty often, but I
oh god,
yeah,
so heartbreaking. I just like that's the one reason like I've started to eat healthier. I've started to drink a little bit less, only because I want to see a Vikings World Super Bowl
Oh,
championship in my
wow.
lifetime. And I'm running out of time, man. Like I need
yeah.
51 years old.
You need to cut
I
down,
got
man. Cut back.
I have been. I have
Get
been. I thought I would have been. I thought I would have seen it by now. Like, and statistically, there's what 32 NFL teams.
Mhm.
We should have had one. Like at least one. We were in the Super Bowl 4 times in the '70s. Like, why not?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I mean some of those 32 are like the Jets. Like we've got,
I know,
you
right?
know,
That's a great point. Like when we're talking about player success, right? Like the
yeah.
Minnesota Twins play in a division that also has the Chicago White Sox, and I feel so bad for those fans because that team is historically just awful,
hmm
and just weird. They lose games in the weirdest ways, and so to be in the same division where you get to play those guys, what four? You get 4 series with those guys. You can play them like 16 games a year, maybe. Um, makes our stats look slightly better because we play in the league division with the White Sox. Meanwhile, the Yankees and Boston and the Toronto Blue Jays are all in the same division. They got to play each other all the darn time, along with the Baltimore Orioles, who are the American League East version of the White Sox, or have been. And so like these divisions that have like miraculously uncompetitive teams year after year make everybody else look amazing, right? Because we get to play them a little tiny bit more. But I don't know. I'd love to build a model based on that. Like, okay. And I think it has been done a little bit. There's a site called Fangraphs where as a game is happening, you see the win probability, right? Like,
right.
Minnesota Twins at home, have a 52% chance to win most games. And then as different situations happen, each throw of the baseball starts to affect the win probability a tiny little bit.
Yeah.
But they calculate it based on all of the situations in the past, right? They don't take into account player skill level on either side of the ball. They just calculate, okay, in a game where you're up by 10 runs in the 9th inning with 2 outs, you are 99.99999% likely to win, right?
Unless the Minnesota flag is checked.
Yes, unless the Minnesota flag is checked.
Yeah.
And I would say that's also deliberate, Chad. Like the idea in statistics is just like if you're drawing on a sufficiently large amount of numbers, like sufficiently large historical data, the individual aspects of the players should be relatively irrelevant. Like the outcome should still kind of tend toward what we call the central tendency there. But
okay, all right. I still sometimes have a little hope because also
it can make a difference in individual situations. It's just that's why they use it. Is I guess what I'm saying. Like,
yeah, we should factor in the fact that I'm also a moron. So I get stupidly hopeful all the time. I mean, the Twins we just swept the Detroit Tigers. So obviously we're going to the World Series, right? Like that's just a settled case law at this point. But that's got to factor into my own personal statistical analysis. Like, okay, it's the Minnesota Twins. So on the one hand, opposite of John's algorithm is Twins. Then yes, World Series, obviously. Is that realistic? No, probably not.
Right up until the math gets involved and they are mathematically eliminated.
Yes. Just don't look at them. Yeah.
It takes a while though. They're still mathematically possible right now.
1000%. Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you feel about some of the stories coming out about the NBA and sort of games going or call sheet outcomes, futures outcomes coming out in a way that is unexpected or expected, or however you put that? There's been some question about some players and some referees and some, I don't think it's gone to coaches, but questions about people trying to manipulate the stats a little bit, but really it's the bet that's based on those statistics.
Yeah. I think it would be naive to assume that there's not a ton of insider trading going on those platforms, and whether it be, somebody on the team who has a little bit of inside knowledge that one of their players has something going on, or the player themselves trying to throw a game. I think that would probably be the most extreme case, but we now have incentives for this stuff that we didn't have before, right? We have incentives and we have opportunity. And it just previously was much harder to throw a game and profit off of that, but now it's become extremely easy. So I expect that to happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's two classic examples in baseball, and then one modern one. The White Sox had this whole scandal in 1919 where they threw the World Series because the mob got involved and incentivized the players to throw it, right? And then Pete Rose is the other obvious, he gambled on baseball. while he was a player and while he was a manager, and he used to like just say like I didn't gamble on my games, I gambled on other things, or I only gambled on my team to win,
You
right?
only bet on the Reds to win, man.
Yeah, and he
Yeah.
there's a wonderful documentary about him on HBO, I think. And the gist of it is don't trust anything Pete Rose ever says. Like he's he was not a wonderful yeah,
No.
but it was cool though because he would sign baseballs. Like you gave him an extra $20 when he was at a signing. He would say on his baseballs, he'd have his signature and then he would say, "I'm sorry, I bet on baseball," right? Like it's actually part of his autograph. And then there's been I think there's a couple of players in the MLB that were just suspended indefinitely for gambling on games, right? And it's all through these apps. Shohei Ohtani, his
Translator.
Translator,
Yeah.
supposedly his translator, is banned because he bet on, and the speculation is that Ohtani was doing it himself through his translator, but who knows? Yeah, so like,
Yeah.
it's a real thing. I mean, a player can just look at his Apple Watch now and bet
Yeah,
on
I
his
mean,
next
we've built a profit from cheating machine. People are going to profit from cheating now, like
yeah
to some
yeah.
extent.
Yeah.
Wasn't there some DraftKings thing too early on? In that some insiders or maybe it was Poker Stars or something like that, that there was some insider stuff going on in both of those situations that took a while to clean out.
I think it was DraftKings. I mean, part of the most messed up part of some of these stories is that like they'll announce the Shohei Ohtani, gambling scandal, and then there'd be like this segment brought to you by DraftKings.
Right.
I'm like,
Mhm.
come on, can you not like be a
Don't
little
juxtapose
smarter about
like
how you're
that.
matching? Yeah, it's so I don't know. It's such a weird time right now for that little section of the industry. I loved it a lot more when you had to go to Vegas. Like there's one spot you go to Vegas, you can gamble on sports, you can gamble on anything, great. But you had to go to Vegas to do it.
Yeah.
And historically, like there was never any pro teams in Vegas because it's Vegas, right? Like you don't want to
Right.
make it. But now we have the Raiders and the Athletics are going to move to Vegas in a couple of years, and the Golden Knights for the NHL. I would not be surprised to see a Vegas NBA team shortly. Like it's all going to happen.
Yep.
It's a bummer that it is, but
I kind of wonder what the bigger implications of just the wider acceptance of gambling across the country are going to be for Vegas. Like, does it still
Oh yeah,
go on as a city even? Like, it seems
it
kind of like
is.
a big middle finger to God in the first place, and then like you take away the reason why people would be out there. Like, what's left?
Yeah, I agree with you, man. Like I think just in general, some of these behaviors amongst younger people are already changing. Like they don't smoke anymore. That's great. Only half of Gen Y drinks.
Yeah.
I don't. That's dropped significantly, and they don't go to Vegas. They don't gamble really at all. And I know, like Vegas, they're not building massive theme parks every year anymore, right? Like it's becoming, it's still cool, right? Like I was there
Oh, yeah.
last fall. It's wonderful. It's a place that you can, you go there, you hang out, but like it doesn't seem, and this is all anecdotal, it just did not seem as energetic or as busy or as it
As
seemed
Vegas
a little
as
like,
before.
yeah, it seemed a little lifeless. Like
Yeah.
it's primetime Vegas is, I don't know, man. It doesn't have the same vibe. Like I used to go, that was like because we could afford it because they used to do these $100 like whatever, right? All you
Right.
can inclusive, blah blah blah. And as young people, like it felt right, but that's all gone now. Like you don't
Mhm.
get like free food if you spend, X amount. You don't get all the freebies anymore. Everything's expensive.
They won't comp your drinks in the casino anymore? Huh?
If you're at a table, you'll still get somebody will come around, but like if you're at a
Yeah.
bar or at a casino, like not really.
Yeah.
It's a lot less than what it used to be.
Ah.
So turning on to Vegas and those kinds of things, a lot of lot of the card tables and such, with all of the advancements in camera technology and everything else, are starting to put up boards and statistics as to what, you know, you see it on Baccarat a lot. Like the last 4 hands have been player hands, and the last 5 before that were dealer hands, and you know, showing the outcomes and what cards were dealt and all of that kind of thing to kind of entice people to bet against the odds, probably. Like,
Yeah,
like I've because
interesting.
all of blackjack, there's a card. Baccarat, there's a card. All these table games have a card that tell you what the optimum bet to make is on a given cards that are displayed and things like that. And I think these screens are to try to maybe color your view a little bit. Like, well,
Oh.
dealers lost the last 4 times. What are the odds it's going to happen again?
I mean,
Yeah.
if you're dealing with a deck of cards that's not being replaced, it is better. Like,
Yeah, but it's
Okay.
they're not dealing with a deck of cards. They're dealing with many decks of cards, and also on some of the games they're dealing with shuffling machines that are always keeping the number of decks in, you know, in circulation that set to the same.
I see.
It's a little weird, but
Yeah, and like casinos, like I dealt blackjack for 5 years when I was younger, and it was just blackjack, right? Like it's a game of 21, and that was it. And there was you had to hand shuffle, and we had some tables that were, 2 deck shoes, 4 deck shoes, or 6 deck
Yep.
shoes.
Yep.
And that was just the game, right? Like you just played blackjack. Now every blackjack table has all these different side bets, right? And they've all been, I'm sure John could probably explain the math behind them, but they're all just geared to get more money out of your pocket onto the table. And I mean, they advertise massive payouts. Like there's a blackjack game that has like blackjack is the game, but also poker rules. So like if you get 5 cards dealt and it's a straight, then you get a bonus. Like if you bet that extra little thing. But statistically, you're not going to probably do that. But like there's all sorts of different, to Peter's point, ways of getting money out of your pocket onto the table so they can just rake it. And yeah, putting the screens up is one. I think sometimes casinos will hand out those cards for blackjack, at least, like
Sure.
that say always split eights, because they just want you like get to the table, right? You're
Yep.
going to, if you feel confident that you're doing the right, mechanical thing with how you're playing your hand, eventually they're gonna, the house has on straight blackjack tables like a 51% or 51% advantage, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So they're good odds for the player, right? That's better than roulette.
Yeah.
But
They're going to get their
still,
2% over time, right?
yeah, the goal isn't necessarily to get you to like, they just want you to stay there for a long time, because over time they're winning.
I feel like you would also have about a 51% advantage in roulette if you're just betting on color, right?
Well,
They
there's
put the green and 0 and double 0.
Yeah, but the green's only like one place on
Two.
there, right?
Yep.
And there's
two,
like
I think.
100 total, so
Yeah. So kind of close, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But blackjack feels like you're doing more because
yeah.
you're actively engaged in, what's happening. So yeah.
Interesting. No, I'm also not a big gambler myself. I've actually never been to Vegas, and
That's
so
just
no.
because you understand the math.
Yeah.
Yeah, I stay away from it. It just doesn't seem worth it. But yeah.
I don't think anybody, I mean, maybe some people do, but like the last thing I want to do in Vegas is gamble anymore. Like the theme parks, the massive hotels, the shopping, the food is amazing. There's so many other parts of Vegas that make it like fun. And gambling isn't the thing anymore. Like at least not for me. Because we have that here. Like there's nothing really special about going to Vegas anymore, because we have we got blackjack here, we got baccarat now at some of the casinos, we
Yeah.
got
poker tournaments, all of the
Tournaments. Yeah, yeah. There's
It's all
no,
there.
yeah. So anyway,
No,
All
what
right.
about you? What do you think?
I think we should have our final thoughts on baseball statistics and sports statistics.
Um, yeah, so I'll just start. There's 162 baseball games in a season. Right now, the Twins are 7-6.
Oh,
So
winning.
we got a winning average right now. And I looked at the schedule, and I don't see another loss on our calendar, right?
The
So
rest of the year. That's nice.
yeah, I think we're gonna break that record that Seattle set in
Sweet.
01. That's my thought.
Cool.
Um, Statistically, unlikely, but optimistically, a certainty.
I've
John,
learned
any
more
parting
about
thoughts?
baseball statistics today than I have in the past 32 years, I think.
Okay.
So, congratulations.
can-
And thank you for your help. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
it's fun. Yeah, I think the statistics are a fun part of the game, and they always have been, especially with baseball and scorekeeping and things like that.
Yeah.
I think it's part to get people involved and to keep your interest in a game that might not necessarily move at a pace that you might be used to as a hockey, fan or something like that. Baseball is a little bit more sedate than that, occasionally, with lots of excitement thrown in every once in a while. But
That is true.
yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks, John, for being our guest today, and appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
And
Good
with
talking to
that,
y'all.
we will say goodbye, everybody.
All right.
All right. Take
See you
care.
guys.
Solution Design Group is a digital product consultancy in Minneapolis. Check us out on the web at solutiondesign.com or look for us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram at Solution Design Group.